The auction block was a circle of black stone, slick with the blood of lesser beings. Kalen stood at its center, chains rattling around his wrists, his gaze fixed on the towering figures in the viewing gallery. They were the collectors, beings of pure energy who had shaped this sector of the galaxy for eons, their forms shifting like heat haze over a dying star. To them, Kalen was just another asset, a biological curiosity from a primitive world. They didn't see the fire in his eyes, the quiet calculation that had carried him through 3 slave revolts. The auctioneer's voice was a synthesized drone, translating his price into a dozen currencies. Kalen tuned it out. He was watching the collectors, noting the way their energy fields pulsed in time, the subtle shifts in their luminosity that betrayed their interest. One of them, the largest, whose light burned a deep violet, seemed particularly fascinated by the scar running down Kalen's face. A trophy from his first escape attempt. The bidding climbed, a meaningless escalation of credits and resources. Kalen knew his fate was sealed. The collectors didn't buy slaves for labor. They bought them for sport, for the thrill of breaking something that fought back. He just hoped his next owner appreciated a challenge. The transport pod was a coffin of polished steel, humming with the power of the collector's flagship. Kalen was thrown inside with 3 others, a hulking reptilian warrior, a crystalline being that hummed with a low frequency, and a small, avian creature whose feathers were matted with fear. The door hissed shut, sealing them in darkness. The reptilian warrior let out a guttural growl, bearing rows of needle-like teeth. "We are meat," it hissed, its voice a series of clicks and whistles. The arena was a vast, open-air pit filled with a thick, orange atmosphere that tasted of rust and burnt sugar. Kalen and the others were released from the pod onto a platform that extended over the abyss. Below, in the gloom, shapes moved. Things that slithered, things that scuttled, things with too many legs and too many teeth. The collectors hovered above them, their energy forms blazing in the alien sky. A voice, amplified and echoing, boomed across the arena. "The hunt begins." The reptilian warrior roared and charged forward, leaping from the platform into the darkness. A moment later, a wet tearing sound was followed by a shriek that cut off abruptly. The crystalline being pulsed faster, its light flaring in panic. "This is illogical. There is no strategy." Kalen grabbed the avian creature, pulling it back. "There's only one strategy," he growled, his voice raw. "Don't get eaten." He wasn't waiting for the signal. He wasn't waiting for the rules. He simply stepped off the platform. The fall was short, and he landed in a crouch, the orange air thick in his lungs. He didn't look for a weapon. He didn't look for cover. He just looked for the first thing that moved, and he ran straight at it. The violet collector watched from above, its energy field flickering with something akin to confusion. It had monitored thousands of hunts. It had seen fear. It had seen desperation. It had even seen defiance. But it had never seen this. This irrational bravery. The human wasn't fighting to survive. It was fighting to kill. It had torn the legs off a chitinous horror with its bare hands, was now using the creature's own severed limb as a club, and was charging towards the next beast with a scream that tore at the very fabric of the atmosphere. The other slaves were either dead or cowering, but this one was a catalyst for chaos. It was a flaw in the system, a variable the collectors had never accounted for. They were beings of pure energy, beings of logic and control. They understood strategy, they understood power, they understood the cold calculus of life and death. They did not understand the human's willingness to sacrifice its own body for a moment of violence. The violet collector pulsed, its light deepening. It had intended this as a simple demonstration of its power, a reminder of the natural order. Instead, it had created a monster that didn't fear the dark, because it was the dark itself. And in the depths of the arena, the monster looked up and saw its god, and it smiled.